Frankie, my brother.
What up?
Dude. Hey,
Hey,
thanks.
brother.
Hey, dude, thanks for coming on the Parables, man. I appreciate you. This was a long time coming, man.
I was saying that before we hopped on the camera, but yeah, I feel like everything's been leading up to this moment right here, so I'm excited for sure.
Dude, and we were just talking about this is kind of like technically almost your first podcast.
My debut for sure. This is like my first podcast with video and audio.
Dude, man, I appreciate it. Well, one, I've been looking forward to this episode because when we've been going back and forth, social media,
Yeah.
and we're basically from the same area, being in,
Yeah.
in the Empire, Riverside, Corona area, and that's kind of where your business is too. And I know you
Yeah.
just moved to Orange County, but man, dude, like I said, first ecom guy to be on here, and man, I ain't gonna lie, I haven't recorded since 2019, so excuse me if I'm a little rusty.
Ooh, okay.
Nah, we're gonna be good though.
So wait. So am I the first one for 2020?
You are, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, you are, man. And what better way, dude, to have you, man? Dude, you just came back from vacation. Tell me about that real quick before we start.
So, well, right off the bat, I want to make sure your listeners are paying attention. So, my name is Frankie Quiroz. I own a clothing brand, two clothing brands. One of them goes by Tuned in Tokyo. The other one goes by Drip Creations. We do more than 8 figures per year. So now that I got your attention,
Let's go.
that's where we'll pick up.
Yeah.
But I just came from I took a 3-week vacation, and this is my second vacation ever. I try to take them in January. It's a perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to Spain and we went to Greece. But it was 5 different locations within those, like Mykonos, Athens. We went to Ibiza and Barcelona, and then London. for
Seems
a
like I was
couple days.
fast paced, right? Because you kept on traveling from one place to another.
Dude, it was 9 flights all in like one session. Dude, it was tough, man, flying. But you know what? As amazing as it was out there, there is no place like America, especially California. Like
Yeah.
I came back and I appreciate where we live and what we're doing so much. Like, damn. Like,
Yeah.
I got a clear pick. It was like a reset and I'll get into more detail, but it was like a complete reset of like exactly what I needed to come back to in 2020.
Yeah.
Besides all the stuff that happened, like while I was out there, the coronavirus, Kobe Bryant passing away.
Oh,
rest
yeah,
in
that's right. You were
peace.
gone when that happened.
Dude,
Yeah.
so sad. So I'm over there and I'm like, holy crap, I couldn't even believe it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, for California, this is such a big deal. And that hurt.
Dude, that was the first celebrity I cried. Like, I literally was driving with my wife, and we had to pull over when she broke the news to me, man. And
Even like thinking about it right now is getting me a little warmed up.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
It's like, he was like part of culture here. It's like in California, dude, LA especially, he is culture. Like,
yeah,
he's an
icon. He's a legend.
An icon. He made a big stamp in LA.
Yeah, dude, man. I forget. Yeah, while you were traveling, all that stuff was happening,
Dude.
man.
And I'm over there.
How are you juggling your thoughts? Like, this is vacation, so obviously you do this. I'm sure during your business, you're juggling so many thoughts.
Yeah.
What's kind of going through your mind during these times when you're trying to juggle different thoughts? You're trying to focus on business and vacation, having fun, and then you just have these unexpected events go on.
So luckily, I didn't have service out there, only like Wi-Fi, so I couldn't really keep up to date with what was going on. But like, it was lingering in the back of my head, like, dude, there's so much happening out there on the world, and how is China going to affect production within my business, and then like the Kobe Bryant thing, and I'm like, some of my family members are like, crying as well. Like, everything's like, I'm just like, dude, and I'm getting homesick at the same time. I'm like, man, I miss my dogs, I miss my moms, I miss my dad. Like, yeah, so I was going through some emotional things. I was just telling my barber earlier. I was like, dude, I felt like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz trying to like snap my finger or click my my shoes, hoping that I can go back home soon. So
Yeah.
Midway, I wanted to come back. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I looked at flights, and I wanted to book a flight just straight over here. Like, that's. Yeah, especially when all that stuff was happening.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. At least with me, I think after like 7 days, I get homesick already.
Dude,
I just got to go back to home. Like you said, there's nothing like California, man.
No place. Dude, there's no place like home. Like your house where you sleep, you know.
And everything that you're doing, all the incredible stuff that you're doing that we're going to talk about right now. So again, dude, Frankie, man, dude, you're I think it's safe to say you're an ecom legend, man. You're doing incredible numbers. Again, eight figures every year, right? But it wasn't always like that, right? We spoke about this, dude. We had lunch before you went on your trip, and that was the first time we met, which was so awesome. I love to meet my guests before we record, and dude, you're just a cool cat, man. Like I sense you. You know, you wanna help people. You wanna be a sense of inspiration for everybody. You know, you practice gratitude, which we're gonna get into shortly also. But let's talk about a little bit about your humble beginnings, because again, it wasn't always like that, right? We spoke about like your past employers and everything like that. So obviously we knew you grew up in the Inland Empire. Let's kind of talk about that leading up all the way to where you are today.
So, I grew up half my life in Orange County, then the other half in IE Riverside, to be exact. And my childhood was basically in Orange County, Westminster area, and so parents separated when I was 3 years old. So there was a lot of bouncing around back and forth.
Gotcha.
And that came with the single parent lifestyle, the whole package. My mom got custody. And it was really hard for her financially to take care of me and take care of like what was happening. So I'm going to try to paint a clear picture to everyone's head. It was like we were living month to month, and she was doing everything she can to make ends meet, and legally and illegally. So there's a lot of stuff that I found out about probably within the last 4 or 5 years that she's done in the past, but she's always had good intentions for it.
That was just to stay afloat. Yeah, to survive, right?
Yeah, so did a lot of bouncing back and forth. What I mean by that is we moved a lot. We were living month to month at a lot of places like studio apartments and short leases. She told me up until high school that I went to 14 different schools. So there was multiple years where I was the new kid in class, which was so tough.
Yeah, how was that? Because you bounce around, you know, you try to build this identity, seek some friendships, and then like you're just bouncing around. How was that for you?
So I remember the first 2 or 3 were tough. Like going to a school, getting to know, becoming friends with people, and then having to go to another one and then another one. After the third one, I got used to it. So like I always talk about how like your past kind of frames you up to who you're going to become. That started for me very early. Like I kind of just was born into this pathway that I've been following since. And so being the new kid in class is very tough. Like you're shy. So like this is where my personality started to form. I started becoming like shy and kind of like introvert / like an observer. So I use it as an advantage. Like I was like paying attention to what people were doing, how they were acting, and how the class worked. Yeah. So I was an observer most importantly, like, but it made me like independent as well, because I knew that I couldn't become friends with you, EJ, back in the day, because I wasn't going to be around long enough, and I didn't want to get hurt and lose the friendship, the bond that we had, because I moved and there was going to be no contact.
I was just going to ask, so you kind of had to learn to kind of detach yourself and not just gain all that, you know. Yeah.
So I found I found myself being super independent and keeping to my own. And you know, I remember I would like read certain books on my own, and I would like play tic-tac-toe like as a little kid on my own. So I didn't really want friends, but because of this, for this reason. So I blamed my circumstances with my mother on money. I knew that I was getting dropped off at a babysitter, or I had to take care of myself while she was gone at work. I knew that was happening because of financial reasons. Very, very young. So my first instinct was like, dude, when I get older, when I get old enough that I'm going to change like my family timeline. Most importantly, I'm going to make sure this never happens again. Powerful. I'm going to take care of myself and the people that I care about the most.
Well, around what age did you kind of realize this? This is a powerful moment, man.
That was 6 or 7. That was like 6 going on to 7. Wow. At 6 years old, getting dropped off to school, our car would break down on the way there. So I remember it would break down, so we'd have to wait on the side, and then my mom would be like, you know what, you're late for class. We're gonna have to take you back home.
Yeah.
So I started noticing these things at 6 years old. I understood the difference between a bucket, like the car you drive,
Yeah.
and a nice car. I opened up my mind to brands,
Yeah.
Hondas, Mercedes. Like why my buddy Zach lived in a house and has had the same friends, lived in the same house, family pictures on the walls, is in a sports league, and I had nothing. I had none of that, and I blame that all on money.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I even blame my parents' separation on money, which that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But like at such a young age, that's how like the fire
Yeah.
was building up inside me.
Yeah.
Right there at 6 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I knew when I got older, dude, that I was gonna do whatever it fucking takes.
Dude, it's crazy how some people might say like that's really young to identify something, but as a kid, once you start
Yeah.
identifying and seeing these patterns, there's no question that you identify that as a young child. And then again, you've kind of identified that, you use that pain, and you
Yeah.
already told yourself in the future, like, I don't want my life or my family to live like this. So it seemed like
Yeah.
you had that chip on your shoulder and that drive and that fire in you at such a young age.
Yeah, which is like super interesting that, I rarely hear that happens to people, but it's kind of like the psychology behind people as well. There's certain pains that trigger people to act a certain way, and I think that pain at such a young early age gave me an advantage on a lot of people that were around me. Like I was trying to prove something to myself, to my family, and the people around me, that I was like this golden boy,
Mm-hmm.
that I had like some sort of glow that one day I was going to be something big.
Yeah.
So, and I had that vision, that imagination. I just didn't know what the idea was at the
Yeah.
time. I was like, dude, I feel something.
Like you were
I just
born to
don't-
do something.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is, and I'm not like smart enough, and I'm not old enough. But one day, like, dude, when I figure this out, it's going to happen.
Yeah. See, that's
Yeah.
how I resonate with you. I've always felt the same way, but I just never knew what that was. And sometimes it takes people such a long time to really realize what that is, man. You know what I mean? And you jumping around back and forth with school, I mean, and all that, and then just, having that pain, did it play with your emotions a lot? Were you kind of like a emotional roller coaster, you'd say, or
No, I
No?
think that I bottled that all up.
pretty good?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty good. Didn't express my feelings a lot. Kind of grew thick skin at such a young, early age.
Mm-hmm.
I never talked about my feelings. I kind of just like, threw those in the closet, locked it up, and boom, never looked back.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, so I kind of took that in, and like at 7 years old, my parents were fighting for me back and forth. So they had to find a middle ground. That middle ground was my aunt. My aunt lived in Westminster, so that's where I moved there, and she took care of 8 kids. And that's where like the magic started. Like that's where the idea started to like, the seed was planted, I guess you can say, and
Okay.
it started to like bloom a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because my 14-year-old cousin, his name's Rudy, he introduced skateboarding to me, and with skateboarding came the music, it came culture,
Mm-hmm.
it discipline,
The whole universe of
my
skateboarding.
independence. My independence was finally a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
because skateboarding was like a rebellious form.
It was your
of a
outlet.
sport. It was an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
So what was really crazy, and we still talk about this, my cousins and I, is that he was 14 years old and I was 7 years old, and I was skating around, riding around with them, a whole group of 14, 15-year-old kids, and I'm 7 years old, and he would take care of me throughout the entire time, because my aunt was taking care of 8 kids. I couldn't get that one-on-one attention.
Yeah.
So she kind of was like, I trust you to take care of Frankie, go do your own thing.
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough money for video games, toys, none of that. All we had was this board that got handed down to me, and we created some magical memories right there and then. And I learned what it is to be repetitive with something, and eventually you'll get a reward out of it,
Mm-hmm.
which is like landing a trick that you've tried over and over again. Breaking the law, which is jumping over like schools and
Trespassing.
shredding, yeah, trespassing, shredding.
Yeah.
Started shredding schools and stuff like that, and then yeah, so I learned a lot, especially with music. But the most important thing that I learned was clothing, team. So like how it felt to be represented while wearing something, like representing something while you wore something.
Yeah, like what it
And
means.
so
Like,
yeah, back in the
yeah.
day, skateboarding was all about teams, like your Volcom, your Element, whatever it is that
Yeah.
you're representing, shorties, whatever it is, like that was a representation of who you are. And for the first time, I cared about what I wore, and that kind of just shifted everything. After that, I was like, okay, I will never have interest in toys, interest in video games. This is going to be the thing. Clothing. I love clothes. And obviously I didn't have enough money to buy like really nice stuff, but I've always figured out a way to get it. And then like, yeah, so the day came where I was there for like 3 years, and my dad came to pick me up, said, pack all your stuff. I'm going to, we're going to go on a little trip, and he'll be back before you know it. Just packed up all my stuff. Turns out I was moving with him, and I was never going to go back ever again.
You said this is your uncle or who?
This is my dad.
Oh, your dad. Your dad. Okay. Okay.
Tricked me into going to Vegas, and so ended up living there for a year.
How was that? Because you didn't see him a lot, right?
So, dude, this is crazy. Vegas was crazy. I was going to skip over Vegas, but this is good stuff. So in Vegas, in California, it's rock. It's skateboarding. I got spiky hair. In Vegas, it's the complete opposite. No one's skateboarding. Everyone's playing video games. Everyone's playing with toys. Everyone's inside listening to hip hop. So here it is. I'm getting exposed to a different culture.
Yeah.
Hip hop, different type of people. And I'm like, whoa, dude. Once again, like now I'm like the black sheep for sure. I stand out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, the way I look is nowhere near the way anybody looks out there. So
people are like, who's this kid?
Dude, automatically. That was tough. Vegas was tough to the point where I only lasted a year out there, and then I got tossed back over here. When we moved back to California, that's where we landed in Riverside.
In Riverside?
Yeah.
And then, so obviously having that love for apparel, you did start some apparel like clothing brands right before Tune in Tokyo, which we're going to talk about soon. What was that like? Again, it was just like your outlet, stimulating the mind, the creativity.
So what happened was as soon as I came back, I got into skateboarding again. And this was in Riverside. It was 8th grade. And what happened? So like when I turned fresh, I came. Okay, this is funny. I came for the end of 8th grade. And I was going to high school for the very first time, which is Norte Vista High School in Riverside. I'm sure you know of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the best place. So I want to paint a picture or tell you guys a story of how my high school was. This is crazy. I'm not making this up. So I'm in 8th grade, coming back from Vegas, and I'm going to. It's my buddy. He's graduating from my school. He's actually my neighbor, and he's graduating from my future high school. So I'm finally going to step on my campus for the very first time. At the time, it was like blacks versus Mexicans. So I get there, and this is my first day on my campus. People are graduating, and as soon as like these group of like Mexican guys walk off, they get jumped by like 30 black guys, and it's just a royal rumble. And dude, I'm like, holy crap, this is what I'm going to, like, this is my future high school.
Yeah, this is the school I'm going to?
Dude, I got less than a month, and this is going to be like me. I'm going to be walking these aisles, and I was terrified. I'm like, holy crap. And there's gangsters everywhere. There's graffiti here and there tagging, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, this is going to be a roller coaster ride for sure.
Yeah.
And so anyways, freshman year, I was really quiet. Just trying to like be an observer, looking the other way. 75% of my school was gang related, so or gang affiliated. So it was tough. It was super tough. You can't in Riverside at that time. It's changed so much. But, 11 years ago, you couldn't walk down the street after like 7 or 8 o'clock without getting mugged. There's like tweakers. There's it's very, very bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot's changed since, but at the time it was really, really bad and freaky.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so sophomore year, I started loosening up a bit. Junior year, I kind of like already knew everybody and, made friends with several gangsters here and there. And like,
were you in a gang?
No, I was never in a gang, but I knew it was really funny because I knew a person in every single like gang.
Yeah.
Like really, really close. So I got the pass like everywhere I went, which was super sick. And then I got into tagging though, and like from tagging, it kind of like opened up my mind to like creativity. And then I was skateboarding as well. Ended up breaking my ankle. From there, I got in. So I'm on crutches. I couldn't do anything but stay inside, and that's where Photoshop came to happen. So I got the creativity down from tagging, from culture. I'm still loving streetwear, Stussy, LRG, the buddies over at I Am King, that are just inspiring the crap out of me. And then here I am in crutches. I can't do anything. So I started dabbling into Photoshop. And that's where I just started like making my first designs, my first like just designs. I didn't know what I was going to do with them. And then I found out that my uncle owned a screen printing shop out in Orange County.
That's sick, man.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can work some deal out with him where I'll be able to print my first t-shirt. So he's like, during summer, you'll work for me for a month and I'll print you 100 t-shirts, which is like the shittiest deal ever. But I would go over there for summer, stuff like that. So I did it, and then I ended up coming back to school junior year, and that's where I had my first set of t-shirts and started like, that's where it kind of just started, the whole idea of like, okay, this is that thing that was firing me up all these years. It's clothing. And I started taking it really serious. So I started building up a street team at my school, started selling them out of my trunk, your typical rags to riches story. This is where it starts. And I remember that my designs we didn't have a lot of money, so it was really, really tough to get by. So as far as like screen printing, like my uncle only gave me that one deal. After that, I was on my own. So I had like 100 t-shirts that I figured out how to sell, but I got super lucky. After that was really tough because I was like, okay, I got my money back that I invested in so far, which wasn't a lot, but it wasn't enough to continue to print t-shirts.
Yeah, or like a new design.
Yeah, so I started fishing around. We're like, okay, well, let me hit up other people to see if I can get my designs on t-shirts. Their minimums were too high. We didn't have the money. So I was like, okay, next best thing, why don't we just buy a screen printing press? And then I won't have to ever go to these guys again. Which turns out they're way too expensive at the time. So I was like, okay, well, there goes that. So the third option, which is something that I believe all you entrepreneurs that are listening, you guys really have to open your mind and figure things out. It's the way you react to certain problems that really identifies like the outcome of your situation. This is a key thing here. So one thing I want to like express is I never made excuses. I've never made excuses, like not once till this day. I've never made an excuse. So the third option was, okay, we're going to build a screen printing press, and we build one out of wood. And I have pictures. It was like the most ghetto thing, but it got the job done. And that press put me through high school. I didn't have to ask my dad for $1 after that with my parents. Like when I turned 16, I was able to buy my own car. I never asked my dad for $1 after that since. And it was all because I didn't make an excuse, figured out the alternative. And yeah, a lot of good stuff happened there. But it was like printing in my dad's shack. We had the press. This was during school, so I'd go to school. After school, we'd be printing up till 3 a.m. I'd sleep like 4 hours, go back to school. I had like paint in my fingernails. My buddy Ivan, which is like a part. He's my production. He runs my production right now. He had a big part with it too. So it was some good times.
Yeah. What was the brand? The brand name, was it like tailored to the car market,
No,
street?
it was
Just
streetwear. It
okay.
was just like more designs. We didn't even have a name for it. We just called it Sick Tees.
Oh, there you go.
It was Sick Tees, and I remember like people would still make fun of me because they're like, oh, like obviously this we're nowhere near the hundreds or the stuff that they were wearing, but sorry, but like I kind of just like ignored the hate, whatever it
Yeah, the
was.
trolls. There's
The
always gonna.
trolls. There was a bunch of hate, and that's where like I started dabbling into at the time, like which was like influence marketing,
Yeah,
which is like having my principal wear my shirts and teachers wear my stuff.
that's
So
awesome,
so I
dude.
got them to wear all my gear.
Yeah,
And because I did that, my sales started going up. People started to, like like people started to want to support
yeah.
my brand, and then I ended up designing like my school's logo. I reamped it. They launched it, and I got a lot of credit for that. And like
Damn.
slowly started like mixing my brand with
Yeah.
my school's pride,
Community.
community, and then
Yeah.
slowly started building it, building street teams from one school to another school to another school. And then, yeah, before you know, I was making a lot of money at the time, but it was definitely enough. I was making like $1,000 a month. A lot of it was getting reinvested back into it, but
Dude,
I mean,
that's awesome, man. And I want to go back real quick and how you said there's absolutely, you didn't make any excuse. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Stop you from doing what you had to do. I
yeah,
just had this conversation with somebody about how there's absolutely no reason for your excuses, because all it is basically self-imposed. You know
mm-hmm,
what I mean? And once you start to make these excuses, you're basically in denial of your abilities. And it's
yep.
crazy because you had an issue with the screen printing. You're like, man, screw it. I'm gonna build my own screen
Yeah,
print.
I mean, when you don't have no money, that's where like I think the beginning of everything, that's where like sheer creation and your raw form
Mm-hmm.
comes into play. And like naturally, since I never made an excuse in my life, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just thought of something. And like that's what makes a good entrepreneur is thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, being
Yeah,
resourceful too,
being
right?
super resourceful. Yeah, and then like after that, I had all these ambitions. So I was like, okay, clothing is where it's at. Like
Yeah.
now I know my passion, my calling.
Seems like
Like,
you're getting confident. You're like, this is
dude,
my thing right here,
dude,
right?
I was like, my dream when I was like 16 was one day I was going to have a fat warehouse,
There you
racks,
go.
warehouse sales, be super popping on the internet, have my own website and be known all over the world and be in like stores. So that was the dream. And I was like, dude, this is so cool. And then I graduated and I was like, I need to move back to Orange County. My uncle, the one that owned the screen printing shop, he was like, okay, you can come live with me and work at my screen printing shop. In my head, I'm like, dude, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get real experience here.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but you have to go to college. And not only do you have to go to college, you have to stop what you're doing. And I'm like,
Dang, puts you in a huge predicament right
yeah.
there.
And then I'm like,
Huge
well,
choices.
I did end up graduating
Mm-hmm.
high school, by the way, but I was like, I didn't think that I was gonna go to college, and I was like, you know what? Okay, well, let's do this. If I'm gonna do it for my parents, I'm gonna do it for him too. And I get his point. I get that they want me to become like some dentist, doctor, whatever. What your parents
Typical traditional.
aspire you
Yeah.
to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I ended up moving there, and then I stopped everything and just worked my ass off with him. Learned the ins and out of the company. I was like his assistant, and then I started getting to like I guess you can say like my first dose of depression.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to class, I'm not paying attention, I don't like what I'm doing, and then I'm like I'm still drawing, I'm still like thinking of designs, I'm still like messing with stuff, and it's like I got this itch. I'm like, you know what? Like I need to do this.
Yeah.
So long story short, I end up getting kicked out of his place. I moved to Buena Park, in like the real hood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sleeping on the floor at my cousin's apartment, and that's where I came up with a new brand, and that brand was called Feather Brand.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like,
Dang, still jumping from place to place even
yeah,
after. Yeah,
yeah.
man.
So that's where I think the magic really happened,
Mm-hmm.
because I had no limitations. Like now I'm definitely on my own. No one's taking care of me. No one
Mm-hmm.
has taken care of me since like high school. But now it's like, dude, I am on my own. Like I'm paying rent at this place that I live in.
You're starting
I'm
all over.
sleeping on the floor,
Yeah.
and now it's time. Like it's like, dude, it was ghetto. It was bad. It was a bad situation, but I didn't look at it that way. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, I'm free. I'm going to go so hard. And I saved up money because I wasn't really spending money on anything at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have like a little bit, like 1,500, maybe 2,000,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't spending any money while I was working with them full time. I was like, I'm going to invest every single dollar into building Featherbrand.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I took Featherbrand. Dude, magic happened. I was able to finally afford certain things that I couldn't do in the past, where my ideas really came to life. We did like stuff with cut and sew, multiple colors, using better T-shirts and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And then I started getting a buzz around. Like my community,
Mm-hmm.
Orange County, i.e., that I was the guy. I started getting introduced with like to rappers and stuff like that because
Nice.
of my designs so I started like designing for a lot of people and a lot of brands, a lot of rappers or mixtape covers, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and like just kept hustling and building Featherbrand. And till this day I still think that I've made some of my best work with that brand. It's just I couldn't the reason why it didn't work out was I couldn't identify who my customer was.
Mm-hmm.
I
Which is
forgot.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. But I want to like I want to put you guys like in perspective that I still did not have enough money. Like it was really really tough to have a clothing brand. Like I know that's like everyone wants. That's like one of their biggest dreams is to have their own clothing brand, and it was really, really tough because I still didn't have enough money to do certain things like have a photographer, videographer, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the way I funded that was I started. So since my brand was going around, everybody like saw the quality, and I was working with like really good apparel manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
They would constantly ask me like, "Yo, who does your stuff? Who does your stuff?" And I was like, oh, my guy over there, and I would refer all these people, and then I started noticing that my stuff started getting pushed behind. So I was like, okay, I need to get a cut. I need to do something. So I ended up like middlemaning manufacturing,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that to fund Featherbrand.
There you go. So you're almost like the broker, basically.
I was a broker, and
Yeah.
I used that to fund the dream. So I did something I didn't really like to fund the dream.
Mm-hmm.
That apparel manufacturing we started started growing and growing and growing. We started getting a lot of clients because I was designing for dude, I was doing everything. I was selling T-shirts out of my trunk. I was designing for almost everyone in Orange County. Even Angels Baseball picked me up. I designed some of their stuff. Dude, I did everything I could to make a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so my apparel manufacturing company started like picking up a little bit. I was like making $500 on the side. And then that Angels Baseball hit me up saying like if I wanted to work for them as a wardrobe assistant and then do designs on the side. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with them for like 6 months up until I started making enough money to basically my side hustle caught up to my income at work. And then I jumped ship. I quit Angels Baseball, went full time with Featherbrand and my apparel manufacturing company. That was in 2000.
That's wild, man.
That was in 2013.
I remember you posted that picture of you when you worked for the Angels. Yeah, and you were just like, I had to make a choice.
Yeah,
and
it was tough.
That was a big move for you, man, right?
Yeah, the leap of faith. So I always tell people that you can't just jump ship. What I did, it's like being on the Titanic. Like you're out there, you see the iceberg that's coming, but you can't just jump ship. You
Yeah.
have to like really look out in the sea and see if there's another ship coming your way.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I saw that my side hustle was coming,
Mm-hmm.
and I did jump ship, but I was very like, I analyzed everything and made sure that I wasn't be able to cover my bills. I knew I was gonna have to eat like shit, like, not go anywhere, no girlfriends. It was going to be a very rough journey, but I was like, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so ended up quitting, and then we got our first office. It was like a 300 square foot office, and that's where we took clients for our apparel manufacturing company, and we used every single dollar to throw it into Feather Brand.
Dang, that's
Yeah.
wild, man. It's wild how you started Feather Brand, but then it automatically empowered you to start your manufacturing company. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's crazy
yeah.
how like
But
one thing leads to another, right?
I think that's been my whole life, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's everything has just been connected to one thing to another. So
Dude, if you think about it too, sorry to interrupt again, it almost like feels like you injuring your ankle too.
yeah,
Like, right?
like, what are the chances of me getting into Photoshop
Yeah.
after that?
Yeah, dude, it's wild, man. So with Feather Brand, did you start doing ecom during that time, or was it after Feather
So
Brand when you started to dive in?
yeah, so ecom came with high school.
Okay.
I opened up my first big cartel shop in high school and started actually selling stuff online to Orange County, from Riverside to Orange County. I
Okay.
was going to the post office, shipping them out myself,
Mm-hmm.
designed my own website, stuff like that. So that ecom, the start of ecom,
Mm-hmm.
started in high school. But so I quit my job and I'm full time now. And I remember it was my partner. I had two partners at the time, and we're like, okay, dude, we can pay ourselves $850 a month.
Yeah.
So that is how much we're going to make for the next 2 months. So keep your bills tight. And what we ended up doing was we all ended up pitching in and living in a single bedroom apartment. There was 6 of us, 3 twin beds in one room just as big as this room right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, dude, it was
It was
shitty.
cramped.
It was cramped, and we
Oh
would
man.
yeah. So because of that, we would literally like work 12 to 14-hour day shifts over there,
Mm-hmm.
just hustling and grinding our faces off. It was a really tough time because I got a call one day, and this is me like making $1,000 a month. I'm doing what I love to do, and this is the start of my new journey. I get a call that my mom's in jail, and I'm like,
Oh man.
wait, are you serious? And I'm like, well, where's my sisters? Because I have 2 sisters, with on my mother's side, 2 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers on my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a call, and then she's like, they're with foster care. Right? They're with like what is it called? The child care services.
Yeah, Child Protective Services.
Child Protective
Yeah.
Services. And I'm like, holy, for like, dude, like my freaking heart fell out.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It was super tough because I was like, I'm the only person that my mom like I obviously got a phone call. Her phone call was to me. So she's coming at me to help her. And then on top of it, I'm like, I need to figure something out for my sisters too.
Yeah.
So I ended up I think I was like 19, maybe 20, signing my first bail bonds to get my mom out of jail. And at the
Jeez.
same time, I've watched my sisters get taken away from her and being put in foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And like
in the system. Yeah.
having me just leave my job, going all in, living in a shitty apartment, eating like shit, this happening, and at the same time seeing like my sisters in foster care, that probably was the lowest moment of my life because I couldn't do anything. I remember going to there's a graveyard in Westminster where my grandma passed. That's where we buried my grandma, and I remember like just going there and just crying,
Just bawling your eyes out.
bawling out. I was like, dude, I can't do nothing. Like my sisters are in foster care, and I can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
and I can't take them. I don't make enough money on the books, especially for child protective services to even lend them my way.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I didn't even have enough money to bail my mom out of jail. So I figured that's a long story itself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I ended up getting my mom out of jail, which was like, thank God. But still, my sister stayed with foster care for, I think, 6 months until my mom proved her way
Mm-hmm.
around. And I know this is really personal, but I really want to put my story out there and what I've done. And, you know, like I never would have thought that I'd be dealing with these certain problems, but I just knew that I needed like, this is what it was going to take. Like, I feel like life, God, everybody was testing me to be the person that I am today. Like, I needed to go through certain things in life.
Absolutely.
Or else I would never be here. You know, I've got asked this last week by somebody. They were like, if you had a chance to go back in time and tell yourself like one thing, what would it be? And Drake has this like really like, this is this good verse where it kind of goes in the lines of, sometimes I wish I could go back in time, not to change shit, but to relive shit twice. That's exactly what I would do.
Dude, powerful.
I'd go back in time. I'd give myself a hug and tell myself, bro, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, what you're going through, like, you need to go through this. Like,
Yeah.
this is gonna set you up. Like, dude, and I'd give myself love. I just give myself a hug. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
just let them know, like, hey, this is gonna be tough, man, but you're gonna get through it.
It was my lowest moments, but I used that to fire me up even more.
Uh-huh.
Again, no excuses. I used it to fire me up even more. I was like, okay, now 12 hours isn't enough. I'm just not going to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to dude, now this is my goal. Like, I need to make money to figure everything out.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest misconception is everyone thinks that, oh, money can't buy happiness, but money can do a lot of influential, inspiring things, can make things a lot easier, can accelerate, you know, your direction and what you're trying to do.
Money is a tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saw that at such a young, early age. Mm-hmm. Money has always been a tool. Yeah. Like, my life is not around, money is not my life. I use money to magnify the love I have for the people that I care about the most. Yeah. Like, I can experience life at the fullest using this tool called money. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing. The cars, the nice stuff that we have, that we all strive to have one day, is very short term. Like, that shot of dopamine you get throughout your body when you get your car. Like, I've had the cars, I've had these nice things. It only lasts for so long until you want the next thing and the next thing. But you got to come to like a realization that it's not going to be like money is only going to magnify who you are. Yeah. So if you love people and like it's only going to magnify it.
It's going to show. Yeah. Yeah. But if you're a real, I guess you're a real asshole. Yeah. It's going to really magnify.
Big a-hole.
Yeah.
Big a-hole snap right in your face.
Yeah, man. Dude, so let's talk about so Tune in Tokyo is obviously one of you own multiple online stores and brands, right? Tune in Tokyo is one of your most successful ones, or if not the most successful, I would imagine, right? Let's talk about that, man, just real quick, because obviously being a car enthusiast myself, we talk about community, and then, you know, just your expertise in ecom. You know, how did that come about, and how have you guys been able to grow that thing?
So when all this stuff started happening, I've met connections along the way. Mm-hmm. And that's where everything just doubled up. The pressure, everything just doubled up. And I understood one thing was social media. I was like, okay, social media is I can't afford to pay for advertisement, so I'm going to use social media as a tool. Yeah. And I was like, this is the only form of advertising that I have right now. Mm-hmm. So I started figuring out different ways, started talking to people. From one person it led to another person. I was like, you know what, there has to be something on that, like some sort of way to comment, like, follow people automatically. There has to be something. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So I started talking to people on Facebook, whatever. Instagram rolled out. Mm-hmm. This is the first time it's ever been out. It's very new. And I'm like, okay, I figured out how to like create my own Instagram bot. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna take this new social media to the very max. And I started creating all these different accounts, different niches, and put them on bots. And they started following, liking, commenting on people's posts. And dude, we're getting like 2,000-3,000 followers a day. Next thing you know, in like the religious community, I had like 1 million followers. In the car community, I had like 10 million followers.
That's wild.
And just different things, different niches. And I'm like, dude, we own like 45 different pages. They have thousands of followers. I'm like, okay, we got to do something with this. Let's stop Featherbrand because we can't identify our customer. We've done some amazing stuff, but it's time to like go on to the next thing. And that next thing was Tuned in Tokyo. So I kind of since day one, I mean, when you grow up around Riverside and Orange County, the car scene's a big deal, especially like the JDM. It's huge. Like this JDM is part of the culture that we have out here in California. So especially my dad is a big car guy. So
and for everybody that doesn't know what JDM means, is Japanese domestic market. It's a style. It's actually, I want to say, a lifestyle, to be honest.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I love cars. Like I know I didn't talk about that too much, which I should have, but yeah, like I'm in the JDM scene as well at the time. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to finally figure out our niche. We're going to create a new brand in the automotive scene that has not been like done this way before. Like we're going to take Featherbrand into the JDM community, mix them both. That's basically both of our passions, our passion that we have for cars and the passion that we have for clothes, put them together, and it was Tuned in Tokyo. And I was like, and we have 10 million followers all across the board. We'll be able to like, you know, really, really do some big stuff. And I remember day one at our launch, we were in Fullerton at a bar. We rolled out our website, promoted all on our pages. We're like, dude, we're going to make like $1 million and blah, blah.
You and the co-founders? Or
Yeah.
Okay. You and your partners?
Me and my partner, Brian. And next thing you know, we get 8 orders. I think we made like $200. I'm like, okay, where's I got millions of followers. Where the hell's the millions of dollars? And I'm like, it's branding. This is too new. Like, they don't know who we are. They're not accepting us. So that's where we started like really dive into branding. We're like, okay, we have the followers, we have the eyeballs, but now we have to really, really brand ourselves.
Huge lesson, right?
Yeah.
How to convert those people into shoppers and buyers.
So at this time, we became obsessed with learning. This is like where I remember meeting some really good friend of mine. His name's Bill Lopez. Shout out to Bill Lopez. He told me one thing that has stuck with my partner and I. Like, I even have this like written on my wall. It says, your business is as big as you are. And at the time, I was like, now it makes sense what Bill was trying to tell me.
It's huge. Yeah.
I need to learn more. I need to get smarter. I need to literally be a sponge and soak up every bit of knowledge that is accessible to me. So started diving into like how to advertise on Facebook, Instagram, how to like do certain things and like how to convert, what's a nice website, stuff like that. So, and I became obsessed with it. And from there on out, it was like
no excuses
no excuses, and everything was in a skyrocket. So we still have the apparel manufacturing company, still have Tuned in Tokyo running. Apparel manufacturing company, we use that money to fund Tuned in Tokyo as well. And so like at this point, we're big, dude. We have like a warehouse, the same warehouse I'm in right now. It's like 7,000 square feet, screen printing machines. We have like 20 employees. So we're doing big things, but Tuned in Tokyo hasn't blossomed to what the empire that we want it to be. And until we started like really taking branding, social media, and figuring out ways to grow and get more eyeballs. So the way I did that was I would bargain with other pages. So I had big pages myself, and I would bargain, do shout out for shout out with my posts at the time. So we were doing influencer marketing in like 2015, 2016. Everyone was talking about that in 2019. I'm like, I mean, I was doing that before it was even popular because I had no choice.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just doing it because I didn't have money to advertise.
Yeah.
So always trying to figure out a way to figure things out. Like that was it. Like, let's solve every problem. Let's not make excuses, stuff like that. So going from there, we learned about, Facebook ads, stuff like that. And then it just kind of like evolved. I started taking digital psychology very seriously, like the way people behave and what triggers them to buy certain things.
Damn.
And how they view content. And then it all made sense. I was like, okay, now I know my customer.
Yeah.
I know my customer for once. This was a big problem that we had with our last brand. And I know what they like, what they don't like, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. I know exactly what to give them. I'm going to give them everything that they want. Our ads aren't going to look like ads. Our ads are going to look like content that they love.
Yeah.
And dude, all our videos started going viral. We started like getting 4,000 or 5,000 followers a day. The page grew to like 1 million followers. We started throwing events. I remember when we were in talks about throwing our first car show. Dude, this is crazy. We did this at the NOS Center here in San Bernardino.
Yeah.
Where like big festivals are thrown. And I remember like the OGs of the community in the JDM scene, the event people, they're like, guys, like, stay in your own. I have a text. He's like, Frankie, what are you thinking? You need to stay in your own lane. Like, stick to selling T-shirts and stick to your social media. The event stuff, you're not a promoter. Stick to your own. Like, just stay in your lane.
Damn.
And I was like, dude, you don't understand what you just did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now I'm gonna make it my goal to have a big show.
Yeah.
So we were like not even looking at the NOS Center. Now we're looking at the NOS Center, and we're like, dude, we're gonna get 5,000 people to show up, and we're gonna fill this place up. And we threw our first event for Tune in Tokyo. We had, what was it? 5,000. No, we had like our first event. We had 7,000 people pay to come and attend. Mm-hmm. We had 780. I think it was like 85 cars pay to show their car, and it was probably one of like the biggest car events that year besides SEMA.
Damn.
And this was our first show, and like immediately like people started knocking on our doors with like sponsorship deals and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then that's where like the community knew like, okay, these guys like don't just have a social media presence in person. Mm-hmm. Like they have influence. Like these guys are like they're the real deal.
Yeah, they're the real deal, right?
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, SEMA is actually almost like the Super Bowl of car shows.
Yeah, it is.
And for Tune in Tokyo to have that huge of an outcome at their event, close to like that of SEMA, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, like we've tackled on some big things. Like the main thing here is we're constantly chasing difficulty. So like at SEMA throws their events in the Las Vegas Convention Center. We went after that. Mm-hmm. So we threw an event at the Las Vegas Convention Center where we had to invest like $75,000 of our own money. And we, turned that place around, and it was one of our best shows. Now we're throwing like events all over the U.S. Mm-hmm. We've been to Dallas, we've been to Denver. We've pretty much been through a lot of different states.
It's crazy.
And dude, it's just insane where when we're throwing these events, that like there's a huge line out the door before the event even starts.
Yeah. And
every time I'm just like, holy crap, like, dude, look at all these people that are here for us in a different state that I've never been to. Mm-hmm. And I want to like say something else, that we did this with no mentors. That's why I never mentioned a mentor. We didn't do this with any mentor, with any investment, no money. We literally turned every penny that we had into what we have today. Like we had to go overboard, go in debt, and figure something out every time. Like our life, we have been in defense up until like 2016. Up until 2016, we've been on defense trying to make it every single month, not knowing if we were going to make it the next month or not. Yeah.
Dude, that's wild, man. I like how you brought up mentors, because now I think it's safe to say, like, you like to surround yourself with people who are on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
You attend events, you're part of masterminds and things like that. How important is it now for you to be a part of that, now that you've reached this level of success?
Yeah, if you're not growing, you're dying. And then another thing too, it's like, if you surround yourself with people that are better than you, they're only going to anchor you up. Yeah. Like, I have been inspired by so many people lately, and it's just like, I wish I would have known these things when I was, or had the money to like network or whatever. I always call it, when you're in like the shithole, dude, you have no time but to focus on your business. So before this, I was like, I need to like be stuck in a cave and just grind.
I call it the dungeon.
The dungeon, I call it the cave.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was in the cave for so long, and I'm like, okay, well, now I'm ready to go out and network.
Yeah.
And that has only, I think that's really, really important, is just being inspired by other people and knowing that you're not the smartest person in the room, which is a great thing. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You want to be able to learn something new every single day, the goods and the bads. And that's where I think like the masterminds and networking with people, just like I'm here talking with you, you get inspired and you learn so many different new things.
Yeah, definitely. I think from an outside perspective, when you look at like some of these very successful, ecom individuals, there's a false narrative that like, oh yeah, they're lucky because they just found like a solid product, and they got in early and they're just selling it, buy low, sell high type of thing. But obviously that's not the case with your story and everything that you've built. You've built communities. You've done massive successful events. You kind of touched on it too, but can you just touch a little bit more on the mindset behind that industry? What type of mindset do you need to really succeed in that industry?
Like ecom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where the value comes in. And I'm sorry that you had to wait 57 minutes.
No, save it for last.
Here we go. So the most important thing, like with drop shippers and people that are trying to start their own brand, you have to, I think the big thing here is social proof community. Like the first thing that pops up in my head that we did was community. That's the way you build a brand, whether it's through influencer marketing, getting eyeballs from one person talking to another person about your brand, and making sure that your entire presence online and offline looks the same. So we chose 3 colors, black, red, and gray, and we stuck to those colors with Tuned in Tokyo, from the ins and outs to our office to what we wear every day, like everything. Like when we did ads, you knew that it was coming from us. Like when you saw one of our ads, one of our pictures, you knew that was Tuned in Tokyo, because we stayed consistent with the content, and our website looked the same. Everything was unison. And I think that that's what makes a good brand, is when everything is unison. But as far as what people struggle with the most is identifying the customer. And like with drop shippers, the biggest problem with them is that they're constantly trying to find the right product. And I always say, like, that's where the problem lays. You have to find the customers first.
So they have it reversed.
Gotcha. Everyone's looking to start a new product, create a new design, and they fail to realize that the most important thing is who your customers are, because you're selling stuff to your customers, but you don't know who your customers are. And that's such a big deal. The reason why we've struggled for all these years was we weren't being able to identify who that customer was. So I always say, research an industry first, research the customers you want to have, and then create a brand, a product around their needs.
Gotcha.
Don't research a product and then find the customers for that. I don't wear Tuned in Tokyo. The reason why is because I didn't create Tuned in Tokyo for myself. Like,
Dude,
in reality, I designed, like, if you tell me, hey, you know what, purple shirts look cool, and then another person tells me purple shirts look cool, guess what I'm coming out with tomorrow? Purple shirts. I don't like purple shirts, but guess what? My customers come first. I give them exactly what they want. I don't wear tuned in Tokyo because the designs aren't for me. The designs have been accumulated over time with the customer's interest.
Dude, I'm fucking blown away because you are probably the first person that I ever heard that, when you create an apparel brand, it's usually based off like, oh, would I wear that? You are the first person to reverse engineer that thinking.
And guys, that goes for everything. Even my fellow content creators, the people that are trying to like be travel vloggers or just vloggers in general, everybody is so caught up in like what you think, what you want, how you feel about certain things, but you forget that this is a consumer based industry. Somebody is going to watch that content. You have to think about your content. This is the reason why Gary Vee is so good at what he does, and Mark Zuckerberg with social media. These people are constantly thinking about people, the people that are using their products. That is the biggest freaking problem that everybody in the entrepreneur game has. And then the industry is super important because you brought up the mastermind. So I realized when I got there, I was like, okay, with the masterminds and the networking, these people are much smarter than me. They're shitting on me, blah, blah, blah. They looks like they're making a lot more money. What I came to realize was that they're smarter in different ways. They shine in different areas that I don't shine in, but I'm still shining. And the reason why they've made more money was because their customers, the industry that they're in and what they're selling to them. That's the difference between a $1 million to $5 million to $10 million to $100 million company is literally the damn industry that you're in. Supplements, all that, supplements, educational, the tech industry, all those are big money, deep pocket industries where people spend tons of money, and you can do the same exact work for a different industry with a smaller pie, and do the same exact work as somebody that does 100 million. The only thing that's different is the customers. Customers come first always. Research the industry.
Dude, I feel like if anyone were to sit with you, they'd always want to ask you like, hey, what's pick your brain on this, how to do this, how to do that. But I want to kind of change it up a little bit. What's something that frustrates you in the ecom universe? You said you like questions, right?
Yeah. So something that frustrates me in the ecom universe, was that like when people are asking me about the products and stuff, but I think that it's the lack of research that these people do.
The due diligence is not there.
You're telling me that you want to do something for the rest of your life and you're giving up in 3 months or 1 year. Yeah. Like, dude, if you want to do something for the rest of your life, you literally have to do your research. Like, people, stop trying to copy me, copy EJ, or copy what we're doing. There are billion-dollar companies out there like Nike, Adidas, and so on that have laid out the footprint, the blueprint that you just have to follow. That's the people that inspire me are these billion-dollar companies. When I come up with my ads, with my content, with my designs, whatever it is that inspires me, it's from the very top. It's not my competitors. It's not the people I'm around. It's literally coming from the very top. I've done massive amount of research, and that's what they have to do. So that kind of frustrates me, is the lack of research, the lack of knowledge, and all the excuses that come with it. But if you're talking about like just frustration and like the company wise, is definitely fulfillment production. That's tough. Like we can do 10 million a year, but we're gonna have to fulfill those orders. So customer service and all that stuff is tough. Employees have been super hard. That's always trying to figure out the perfect balance, the sweet spot between like blossoming somebody under you, and then showing them like basically like leaders creating leaders. That's what I'm trying to do, and it's very, very hard. I don't think there's a perfect answer for like employees, like having the right, because if you train them too much, they're gonna dip. Yeah, so it's like you kind of have to find the perfect balance where they're itching to want more and striving to want more, but you want your employees to blossom and become their own person if they end up leaving you. Now I understand that. I'm like, okay, that's dude. I just give me a 2 week notice, but hey, bro, like best of luck to you and
Congratulations.
thank
Yeah.
you. But just make sure you're making the right decision out of here, you know? So
Dude, we spoke about obviously you put a huge emphasis on finding what is who your audience is, right? And what they want, right? What do they demand? What do they seek? How equally important is it for the customer experience though? The customer experience in its own.
that's
Is that equally important or
yeah, of course. From the content to them receiving a package, like everything has to be unison in their experience. So with that comes with like conversion tactics. Like your website has to be super fast. It can't load up, and you have to make it very simple and clean. So many people are trying to like throw all these incentives on their website, which are kind of like in a way like potholes when people are like tripping over trying to
yeah.
buy something. So like the more, I think that right now the less is more, especially with branding.
Yeah.
And not being so pushy on the sell that they naturally will buy something. So that's a good converting tip for anybody that's doing Shopify or advertising on Facebook. Another thing too is like understand when you're spending money on advertising, you really got to know who your customer is. So if like, for instance, I know who my customer is. My customer for Tune in Tokyo is from 18 to 24. He's a male. He spends most of his
The
time
demographics,
on,
yeah.
he spends most of his time on Instagram, not just social media in general, Instagram. So it's like people ask me another question like, should I advertise on Facebook, Instagram? Well, when you know your customer, 30 years and older, advertise on Facebook. Anybody under 30 years old is most likely on Instagram, spending most of their time on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Are you starting to dive into TikTok too? Or okay.
yeah. So TikTok's something new, and right now it's like the wild, wild west, just like Instagram. So you best believe that I'm on my TikTok bots right now.
There you go. There you go. See, he's trying to stay ahead of the game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, dude, we could obviously talk about the whole ecom workflow
Yeah.
like for hours and hours and just going through it could be like 10 episodes, man. But, one of the things I know I wanted to ask you was your thoughts on the competitive pricing and shipping. What are your thoughts on that, on like people who are really shooting down the prices on certain things? And
So you'll never be able to beat Amazon, which is awesome because Amazon's a general store. It's it's Walmart online.
yeah,
So you don't have to beat Amazon with shipping and their prices, and that's kind of what makes a brand too. Because if you take a random hoodie from Amazon and you put it in a Louis Vuitton store, that $30 hoodie just went up to $1,000 just because it's in a different store.
yeah,
So it's the power of branding that's where it comes to play. So with pricing, if you're talking about specifically with clothing, I think China and being like doing stuff overseas is very, very important. Some of the stuff that I'm diving into right now is being able to have our production done in China
yeah,
and in Pakistan and directly shipping it from there to my customers.
yeah,
And at the same time having a plant of Tuned in Tokyo and Drip out there, and so basically having my own facility out there and overseeing all the operations.
yeah.
So we're doing some really, really big stuff, but that's just like to streamline production, get efficiency with pricing, and just being on top of all of our products and quality.
Dude, that's
So
awesome, man.
yeah.
Dude, what's we're gonna be running out of time soon, but I kind of want to know because, dude, it seems like you're just building, and we had this discussion when we had lunch that you're trying to build multiple companies, multiple brands. What's kind of like your end game? Like, are you trying to just take maybe one of your brands and just take it to the number one spot? Are you trying to build multiple brands? Obviously, you're in a place too where I kind of feel like you've been kind of a sense of inspiration and mentoring. Like, what's kind of what are you trying to do?
Great question. So I did want to, like, I got the entrepreneur genes in me, so I wanted to like dabble myself in all these different things. But then I realized I was like, okay, I got two really great brands on my belt that could really do some damage in the world. So I need to be, focused and going all in on that. So my future plans are definitely taking like, to New Tokyo to as far as I can, but most importantly, like my footwear company to $100 million. Like that's in the radar. Before I forgot to mention that like when you do associate yourself with people that are doing much better than you, that the numbers they're doing kind of like feeds you. So like 100 million was nowhere near the radar before. Like that was like, there is no, like that wasn't even in the question. It was like, once I get to 20, 30 mil now, dude, we'll be doing like 15, 20 million a year next. This year we will do like around 15. Next year will be like 30. The goal is to do 100 million per year. So that's in the works. So I think that going all in and staying focused and just growing our brands, Drip has barely been in alive for 1 year. We were working on it behind the scenes for like 7-8 months. So it's a 2-year brand.
And that's the footwear brand that you're talking about. Okay.
And that's already doing 8 figures itself. So I'm like, trying to get that to 9 one day.
Yeah.
So that's in the plan. Besides that, it's definitely like doing this, being on camera, helping people that I know are relatable to myself and my situation. Because I understand how it feels like to be a struggling entrepreneur and not having resources and money and blah, blah, blah. So I want to like just put my personal brand like, I just want to come out of the cave and tell my story, and hopefully that inspires people.
Yeah, man. Share your influence
to become better.
Yeah, dude. And one more thing. So when I first met you, and actually when we started talking and just getting to know you a little more, and I touched this a little bit during the beginning of this episode, was I realized like again you're such a good person, man. And I realized also and identified that you're really grateful and thankful for the stuff the opportunities that have come to you, and I get the feeling that you practice a lot of gratitude. You know what I mean? How important is that for you, and how important is that to anyone who's really trying to reach that level of success?
That is so important. Like, I don't think, dude, I know this sounds so cliche too, but I really go before I go to sleep, or it's either before I shut my eyes or when I first open my eyes, I'm thanking God, like straight up. Like I thank God that I'm still breathing, that I'm still here doing what I'm doing, like every single day. And like when you get to a certain point, you take on a new identity. So I can't remember all the mistakes I've made and the failures and the obstacles we faced because I try not to remember the bad. But I know that's why I'll like post certain things on Instagram that kind of can fuel other people that are there at that time. Because it kind of just reminds me of where I came from. Like I don't ever want to lose sight of where I came from. And I think that's really important. And like, honestly, I've just begun. Like I feel like I'm still so young. I've just begun. There's so much more to do. I'm learning something new every day. Guys, it is so important that you learn something new every day. Like I don't listen to music, and unless like you're going to the gym, whatever, but you have to put some time aside to either research content, listen to podcasts like the parables, and if you're a reader, read. If you don't like to read, watch videos on YouTube. Just do anything that you can to get smarter and better, because that is so important, bro. Growing is literally the most important things. Your business is only as big as you are, and I plan on being much bigger, and the only way I'm going to do that is if I keep learning and learning and learning and getting inspired every single day. So I appreciate life. I appreciate where we're at today. And I mean, dude, I'm a loving person. I'm authentic. I am who I say I am. I have nothing to hide. I'm not perfect. I've done bad things. I've done a lot more good things. And I'm just so glad to be here.
Yeah, dude. I think something that you touched on is that one, growth is very limitless, and another thing too is that everyone should be tapping into that curiosity. Everyone has curiosity in them. It's just that people don't seem to tap into it. Not only accelerates your growth and learning, the due diligence, the research, and all that stuff, man. Dude, Frankie, brother, I appreciate you, dude. That shit was fun. That shit was fun, man. Guys, listen, Frankie Quiroz, just wrapping up this episode. If you guys find inspiration in this podcast episode, please do us a favor. Take a screenshot, tag me and Frankie. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know what you think. Also, if you could do me a big favor, just for visibility, if you guys could leave me a rating and write a small review on iTunes, I'd greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, man, dude, what a great way to basically start the first episode of 2020 off, man. I appreciate you so much, man. And as always, you know, Frankie, I don't do the typical, Polaroid picture. No, I have these legends signed the infamous canvas over here, so we're about to do that.
Damn, I should have worked on my handwriting.
All right, guys, Parables Podcast with Frankie. We out of here, man.